All right, you guys, it is that time of the week again. It's time to go through the 1128 comment section and see what the hell we're theorizing about and to just have some fun. So with that being said, let's get right to it. You know, it's kind of crazy doing these sometimes because it's like, yo, I make like 5-6 videos per chapter. Like at some point, it kind of feels like Groundhog's Day. It's like, okay, how many times can I talk about this chapter, right? Which is why I really love doing these videos, because I have my own thoughts, I have my own opinions, but seeing what you guys are talking about in the comment section, I think it's a lot of fun, right? Because you guys aren't me, you guys have different ideas, different thoughts, and it sounds so simple, like, yeah, duh, sigh, but it's cool, man. I like doing this. All right, so the first comment, though, it says, celestial dragons hate insects, and then we see Emu playing with butterflies. All right, hear me out. Butterflies are the one exception. You know, emu and butterflies, that could be a Queen Lily thing. I know I'm kind of stretching that, but for context, I said that celestial dragons, more aptly Vigorse and emu, do not like insects. They refer to humans as insects. I think Marcus Mars did that. Saturn did that. I think Warcody did that as well. And then as far as emu, when he's talking to Cobra, he calls the will of D, the D clan, he calls them empty husk, as in the empty husk of an insect. So yeah, something's going on with insects. I still think they don't like them. I think butterflies are just the one exception. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. So right below they say, we see Luffy choking his snake. He's in sun god form. I can understand that. But when I choke my snake, I feel free too. We all do, brother. All right, so this comment right here says, the fake sun god is definitely a woman who just loves animals. I can tell because of the normal sized handmade clothing. The Straw Hats comments about the sun god being delicate and them being dressed up like dolls, and she probably thinks Chopper is cute and kept him out of the cage away from the dangerous animals. The two animals that weren't in there didn't attack him at all. She probably collects animals and regular-sized humans because she doesn't have a family or some other anime backstory reason, or it's just a hobby. And I actually completely agree with this, and I actually just made a video and posted it over on my theory channel talking about this character being not only a woman, but related to Snow White. Well, not related, but, you know, akin to Snow White, and how Snow White sings to animals and animals come to her, and why she's trapped in this castle prison and why she's playing with Legos. And I do think that when it comes to her race, I think she is a special race. I posed the idea of her being an ancient giant. That doesn't have to be the case, but either way, I do see this character being a woman as well. You know, it's kind of crazy because it sounds a little bit sexist, right? When you really boil it down, she got the heels, she got the dolls, you know, she sews. It's gotta be a girl. But to be fair, I mean, you know, at least most of the women I know in my life kind of do that too, so it is what it is, right? All right, so this one is another joke about me saying Luffy's choking out his snake, and to be honest, sometimes I do make these jokes knowingly, right? I'm like, oh, okay, you know, maybe he's choking the chicken, but sometimes they are by accident. Like that, the snake thing, like, let's be real, it was actually happening, right? Luffy really was just, you know, putting work in on that guy. All right, so this comment says, the sun god dude has hella aura, but I have a feeling he's gonna look goofy without his mask. And the reply says, it kind of reminds me of the Yamato intro with their mask and long hair. Yes, it does remind me of Yamato one-to-one almost, right? We had a big switcheroo with Yamato as well. Yamato came in, they're like, oh, it's Kaido's Musuko, his son! Somebody get young Master Yamato! And then they took off the mask and it's a bodacious babe. I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but I think there is something at play here that when they take off that mask, they're gonna be like the furthest thing from a sun god. One Piece, being an adventure manga once again, brings me joy. One Piece was an adventure story before a battle manga, and it looks like it's going back to those roots. So funny enough, One Piece, at least from what I recall from early One Piece, but it felt like a good mixture. Like we had amazing battles early on in the East Blue Saga. Like I loved the buggy fight. I loved Arlong, Captain Kuro, Dawn Creek. The beginning of One Piece, it's always struck me as gold. Like it found the perfect middle ground. So seeing that here, seeing the jokes, seeing the adventure, the fighting, it feels great. I've said it time and time again, but it does feel like Oda found the fountain of youth and he's going back to the good old days. But then again, you gotta remember, Elbaf, this seed has been planted into One Piece as early as chapter 14. Chapter 14, Oda was talking about Vikings. Oda actually gave Luffy this outfit already in chapter 14. He just obviously modernized it. And then we got to chapter 100. Dorian Broggie talked about god dang Elbaf. Shanks, when we first met Shanks, he's always had a Norse ship. Yo, Oda, he's been waiting for this one arc forever now. And I think he is in his bag. I think all of these ideas that he's been cooking up for years and years on end, it's finally coming out and it's revitalizing his soul. All right, so this one says, Luffy criticizing Usopp for not being able to take down the giant cat. What's the best thing about this chapter? We're gonna witness Usopp peak development this arc. I hope so, man. I really hope so. And one thing I found out later about this chapter, well, it doesn't have to be a reference in this chapter, but we had a snake and a crow be our main opponents, right? Luffy took down the snake, Zoro took down the crow, and I was kind of going through Norse mythology, and obviously we have the references with Hilmengandr being a reference to Jormungandr, and then we have the crow Mugen being a reference to Odin's ravens, and that's all fine and dandy. But do you know what else this could be referencing? Aesop's Fables story, titled The Crow and the Snake. So real quick, but just in case you don't know, Usopp and his whole character and his connection to Elbaf all have to do with someone in real life. Well, granted, people don't know if he was real or not, but it was some guy named Aesop. And back in the day, he wrote Greek fables. And The Crow and the Snake was actually one of them. And I went through and I read it, and it taught a very good lesson, and it's almost a lesson that can be applied to this chapter. So I'm gonna paraphrase it and sum it up nicely, but essentially, a crow is flying in the sky, and it sees a sleeping snake and its eggs. So the crow goes in to get the eggs, because crows love them. You know, it just wants a big old feast. But little did the crow know that the snake would wake up and soon attack it, and the snake ended up beating the crow. Yeah, kind of a silly story, but the moral of the story is that you shouldn't underestimate your opponents. And that's kind of what happened here. The Straw Hats were asleep, they got possibly kidnapped, and now they're attacking the kidnapper, right? Things aren't exactly going as planned here. And I don't know if that's what Oda was going for, but the fact that he did focus on the snake and the crow specifically and not the rats, for example, leads me to believe this might be the case. Maybe it's a double entendre, right? We have the whole thing with Norse mythology and the references, and then we also have the reference with Aesop's Fables, which connects to Usopp and Elbaf, because Elbaf, spelled backwards, is fable. And that is why, you know, early on, people saw Elbaf and they're like, yo, that's Usopp's arc, right? His character is all based around this story. What if the sun god is the man marked by flames? The flames meaning the sun. And he creates whirlpools to kidnap people and put them into his Lego building. He could have created a whirlpool to kidnap Luffy and them. That's why no one noticed. And you know what? I didn't like this theory at first, but I'm slowly opening up to it. And yeah, I kind of enjoy it because it does explain what happened to the Thousand Sunny. It explains why no one noticed that the Thousand Sunny went missing. My only problem is the fact that they didn't also take the other giants with them, right? If Nico Robin, Frankie, Brooke, I don't know why I gave her the full name Nico Robin, and Jinbei, if they all went missing as well, I would like this even more, because now I'm just wondering, did they only want to take these Straw Hats? Did they only want to take the smaller ship? Like, how did they know? Like, were they spying on them and saw they fell asleep and said, hey, I'm just going to create a mini whirlpool and take these guys away? Like, I still wonder what the logistics are behind this, but I am, I'm keeping my eyes open. I do enjoy the man marked by flames theory now than I did yesterday and even the day before that. So yeah, I'm kind of excited for next chapter. Hopefully Oda solves this mystery sooner rather than later, because like there's a lot of crazy theories out there and I'm excited, man. Like, we got a bona fide mystery on our hands. Like, people are bringing up the sun god being the man marked by flames, people are talking about a princess, people are talking about the holy knights, and I'm just like, yo, hopefully Oda gives us at least one hint next chapter. The Grasshopper biker dude has crazy aura, not gonna lie. Yeah, and you know what, I'm kind of upset that Oda didn't give that guy a name. Bro, the guy showed up in Legoland with a grasshopper bike and goggles, and he didn't get a name? This guy talked to us for 3 pages. He didn't get a name, Oda? Come on. Yeah, I mean, I've kind of hopped on the mindset of calling this man Harley Davidson, or maybe a spin of that. You know, I've been calling him Charlie Hopkinson. I don't know if that's like a Norse type name, but it kind of sounds like it, right? But yeah, I love that dude. Hopefully we see more of him later. And I feel like the way he acted in this chapter, it feels like he was role-playing. You know, obviously we have the title of the chapter named RPG. We have this person who might be cosplaying as the sun god. And if that's the case, the Grasshopper biker dude is also role-playing as well. Because I went back and I read through the Viz official, TCB, and other sites, and this guy literally sounds like a video game character. You know, he's like, hey, heed my warning. Do not go to the other side of the castle. That is where the sun god's shrine is, along with his ferocious beast. And it's like, whoa, oh, okay, dude, calm down, man, calm down, right? So I am excited to see more of him, and I do think it'd be really cool if come next chapter we find out that all of these guys are acting, and they're actually just having a lot of fun role-playing Elbaf warriors. We don't know if that's the case, that's just my own headcanon right now, but yeah, either way, the dude has aura. All right, so this comment says, the Holy Knight has an ox skull, not a deer skull. And you are completely right. That is my bad. I didn't really look to see where the horns were coming from out of the skull. But yes, you are correct. But here's the thing. I don't think that the Holy Knight theory is completely dead yet. And, you know, even though I'm not a fan of the theory, even though I don't believe in it, I still want to give it its flowers and talk about how it could happen, right? So maybe, just maybe, he had an ox skull at God Valley, and then he later upgraded to a deer skull. Sounds a little bit silly, but God's Valley was 38 years ago. So maybe he just upgraded. It's kind of like Garling, right? Garling back in the day, you know, he had like half of his hair that he does now. And now current day Garling, he's like fully crescent moon. And he even has like the crazy goatee thing going on. So I could totally see this being the same case for this guy. You know, maybe he started with an ox skull, and then like Cubone the Pokemon, he evolved and now he has a deer skull. Doesn't have to be the case, but it is kind of interesting that Oda drew two characters almost back to back, right? Because God Valley, I think that flashback was like maybe 30 chapters ago. So yeah, like it's kind of recent. So bringing that design back, or at least a design that's similar to it, it's very fascinating to me. And not just that, but we also have the character from Big Mom's flashback who had a gas mask. And then we also have a Holy Knight who also wears a gas mask. So it's like, yo, like what is Oda trying to do here? Like, is Oda intentionally making these characters look similar to characters we know of or have seen in the past? I don't know. Like, I genuinely don't know what the connection could be here. All right, so this comment says, I can't wait to find out who the silhouetted guy waiting in Elbaf was. Yeah, I mean, isn't that kind of funny? Like, we had that whole mystery. You know, everybody was guessing to see who that was. You know, I was like, yo, it might be Shiki, it might be Scopper. And then here we are, I think 4 chapters later, and we're none the wiser. We have no clue who that was still. Not even a singular hint. So that's why I said earlier, I'm like, hey, I hope Oda gives us one hint as to who the sun god is. Please, Oda, do not leave us in the dark here, man. Bring us the sun. All right, so this comment says, Sai, I've been commenting this on your videos a couple of times. And in one of your videos, you said something that made me compare the God Knight silhouette from Dragon to the red-haired pirates at Marineford. And they have the same aura and number of members, and even some of them you could pair up pretty well. In short, I think it's very possible that Shanks could be fulfilling a role for the Celestial Dragons that benefits him and helps him maintain his agenda. So, yes, I've seen people talk about this before. I totally see Shanks looking like the main silhouette that Dragon gave us during the Reverie flashback, but I don't think that's him. I am still of the mindset that that is just another member of the Garland family, possibly Garling's child, or, you know, Shanks's twin or brother or, you know, sister or something like that. The main reason why is because while, you know, Shanks has some shady agendas going on, I don't think he's going to benefit the Celestial Dragons, and especially so when it comes to their food shortage. You know, Dragon attacked the food shortage, he attacked the Bondalas, and they were like, yo, the God Knights are going to have to act very soon. And then while that's all happening, we have the red-haired pirates on the side going after Bartolomeo, and they're also going after the One Piece. So because of the differing goals between the God Knights and the red-haired crew, I don't think they're one and the same. I get what you mean, though. They do have the same aura, they do have the same number of members as well, and I think this could be leading to a clash between the Holy Knights and the red-haired crew in the future. And I think that will happen to some extent, especially since Shanks is a Garland. I could see him going against his brother, his dad, or whatever have you. And I think it will be really cool. But as far as, them being one-to-one, I don't think that's the case. I do think the red-haired pirates are good people at the end of the day. And maybe they do some things that benefit celestial dragons, but I don't think they're going to be on their side in the very end. Not at all. And as far as Shanks ratting out a certain pirate, I don't see that in a negative light. I actually don't know where that came from. I don't know who spawned that theory, but I remember back when the Reverie happened, we had Shanks going up to the Gorosei saying, hey, I need to talk to you guys about somebody. I think that's totally fine, right? Yes, he's a snitch. Yeah, sure. But if he was telling them about Blackbeard, then it kind of makes sense. I mean, Shanks did that with Whitebeard. He went to Whitebeard and he said, hey, Ace can't fight Blackbeard. It's way too soon, right? Pull him back. Send somebody else, dude. Like, I think Shanks is just very concerned for the sake of the world, and he had to weigh his options. Do I help the Celestial Dragons take down Blackbeard, or do I just let Blackbeard or the certain pirate go about his merry way? Of course, I just kind of threw Blackbeard in there. We don't know for sure who Shanks was talking about. But yeah, I feel like I'm on Shanks' side when it comes to his moral standing. 510. Funny how we interpret things differently. I see it as Luffy telling Usopp to stop being a pussy. And yeah, no, hey, I see that too. Hey, to be fair, I see Luffy hyping up Usopp, but also telling him to stop being a pansy. Like, I feel like it's one and the same. It's just like how you say it, right? I feel like it achieves the same goal, and I am really excited to see Usopp step up to the platter. Like, it's gotta happen. In this arc, I think Usopp is gonna have one phenomenal moment. Something akin to Dressrosa, right? Where Usopp becomes God Usopp takes down Sugar, what have you. I think Usopp is going to take a stand. I think he will beat somebody important or do something important. And hopefully, Luffy telling him to man the hell up is the first step on that journey. Alright, so right below, they say this sun god is looking more like a sun goddess to me. The new carrot, dash Yamato dash Bonnie. And yes, I feel the exact same way. And I feel like for me, what kind of sealed the deal in the Bonnie connection, I know we're not like going on exclusively just Bonnie here, but we have this Lego Playhouse set that mirrors and mimics Elbaf, right? Why would you have this if you live in Elbaf? Why would you have this if you could just look outside your window and see all of it? It kind of makes me believe, or at least leads me to believe, that this person hasn't truly experienced Viking culture. They haven't had the chance to just go outside and, properly see what the hell is going on around him. And maybe that's why their sun god costume looks so off, right? Because Luffy's the sun god. He looks nothing like this deer skulled maniac, right? He doesn't have a staff. No, dude, he doesn't have a black robe. What's going on? So I do think that this person will be tragic. I think they might just be trapped at home, kind of like Bonnie with the sapphire scales. Bonnie had the sapphire scales, and thusly she can't go outside. Maybe this character has sapphire scales. Maybe this character has another deadly disease like amber lead sickness. And then, of course, they need a cure. I think that could be the case. I mean, we've seen time and time again that every time we meet a princess or a woman in distress, they always have some sort of super extreme problem. And I don't see this character being any different yet. This giant is obviously an Elbaf equivalent of a nerdy hobbyist. He calls the room his temple. He collects animals, and his favorite is likely deer, considering the deer's skull and the fact that he separated Chopper from everyone else and put a collar on him. Zoro broke it off, by the way. He probably knows the advanced armament hockey now, even though likely he already knew it. Anyways, back to the giant. He has all those people caged up, and he obviously has a sick nature too if he's treating it like an RPG. Being likely a nerd giant, all tall and lanky, he's dressing up in some kind of cosplay, comparing him to other giants we've seen, collecting animals and little people to fill his Lego cage, proclaiming to be a god. Yeah, he's definitely a nerd, or hobbyist, or geek, or a combination of all three, you pick. Why did he separate Chopper from the group? Animal collector? He probably has a fondness for deer, hence the skull, and Chopper is also rare. He was likely in his regular reindeer form, so the nerdy giant saw him as a rare species and separated him. A tiny deer with a blue nose, that's tough to come by in Elbaf, since everything is massive, including, likely, the Elbaf reindeer. I'm sure there's reindeer on Elbaf considering Scandinavian culture and Norse mythology as well. This guy might even be rich and have his own reindeer herd, most likely. And yes, I agree with most of this. The only thing I would disagree with is this person being sick in nature. I actually don't think that. If this is an RPG, I do think that some of the people within the Lego cage are totally cool with being there. At least that's how I feel. Maybe I'm wrong, but if these guys were truly held hostage and held against their will, I think they would have been celebrating when Luffy broke out. You know, Luffy broke the cage. I think they would have been like, oh, you know, this is awesome, dude. Like, you know, like we can finally leave. And then when Luffy defeated the Ear God, they weren't, you know, happy about that. You know, you would think that if somebody defeated the Ear God, a creature that's been terrorizing you, you would be happy. That's like being in Impel Down and somebody defeated Magellan. It'd be like, oh, holy crap, we can leave now. You know, we're safe, thank God. But no, that wasn't the case. They were like, oh, you know, somebody took down the Ear God. They burned him in the forest. Quick, I gotta go feed the Needle God. Like, these guys actually seem kind of happy to be there. So I think that these guys actually signed up for this experience. They signed up to be a part of this RPG. But as far as this giant being a nerd and liking reindeer, yeah, I'm on the same boat. I think that's exactly what it is. And if this is a woman, I have been comparing this character to Snow White, and how Snow White has a bunch of animals around her, and how Snow White always, I don't know why, she doesn't do anything with the deer, but whenever she sings and the animals come around, like the deers are the main focus, even though they don't have names, even though they don't contribute anything to the story. Snow White likes deers. Alright, so this comment says, I love that Luffy's Gear 5th has a new design to it. I was hoping we'd get something like that during Egghead, but we mostly got him taking his shirt off. Happy he has horns and a cloak in his awakened form. He looks so cool. Yeah, I mean, his horns remind me of Kaido. So when he goes Gear 5th, of course, they're like two small panels, but his helmet like melds in with his head. You know, he keeps the crazy long cape, and it's like, yo, Luffy looks like an Oni. You know, he really does. And then I bet if he goes into his giant form, he's gonna look like an ancient giant because, you know, Oars and Oars Jr., they also have the crazy horns. So I wonder if that's Oda like foreshadowing something, or if it's just a really cool design. Personally, I think it could be both, but yeah, I love that Luffy and his Gear 5th form are getting upgrades, if you want to call them that. All right, so this comment says, honestly, sad how much people coped last chapter over the mistakes that Oda made. Saw short with almost everyone in the comments coping about how Oda purposefully made those errors to showcase the crew going through hallucinations. And the reply below says, it was honestly so annoying because it seemed like they were just straight up slandering to push agendas. As if these mistakes were so egregious-obvious, there's no way they could be genuine mistakes. To be honest, they should be apologizing now. And yeah, I mean, here's the thing with me, right? I've talked about the mistakes over and over at this point. It's like beating a dead horse. Mistakes, in my opinion, are just a part of daily life. Everybody makes mistakes, whether it's big or small. So looking back at last week, the Gear 3 versus Gear 4 thing, you know, Luffy having a sword, then having an axe in the next panel, I think those are all just minor oopsie-daisies. And I've seen people saying that, oh, One Piece is a multi-billion-dollar manga. There's no way they would let that slip through the cracks. But I implore you guys, I actually encourage it. But go back through the past 30, 40, 50 chapters, or not chapters, but volumes of the manga, and there's always like a laundry list of things that the team goes back and fixes later. And, you know, people are saying that, you know, because One Piece is so big, this shouldn't happen, but just think about the video game industry, for example. Dude, games are coming out that cost $200 to $300 million, and those games are riddled with bugs. Some of them are unplayable. So it happens. I totally think it's fine. And as far as people believing that it's a hallucination or illusions, I don't hate that theory. I never hated it. I just didn't like the extremists of the theories. And that's true for anything, right? It's like the raid will fail. People are saying the raid will fail back in Wano. That's a good theory. I don't think it was bad, but it's the small minority, the vocal minority, that really ruin it for everybody, right? It's fine to have your own theories. It's fine to really believe in them, but to just dismiss any other options is kind of crazy. All right, so now for the last comment, they say, I think the Sun God is the same Holy Knight from the God Valley flashback, and they actually aren't on Elbaf. They've been captured by the Holy Knights, maybe on Marie Joie, because Usopp says this confirms we're on Elbaf. And Nami responds, how can you be so sure? All we really know is that a giant's behind this, which could be a little hint that they actually aren't on Elbaf. Also, if this is the same guy from God Valley, it obviously begs the question, how did he get so big? What if he actually isn't? Maybe he and all the animals are normal size. but he shrunk the humans down so he looked like a giant by comparison. Nami also says in this chapter, could we have been gigantified? Maybe it's the opposite and they were shrunk. And yeah, I actually like this idea a lot. At least I like the part where you talked about them shrinking. As far as this being the Holy Night, I think my main hangup and the reason why I'm not there yet is simply because if this is the Holy Night, why didn't they kill Luffy and the group? Why, you know, make them go to sleep? Why put them in the Lego castle? Why give them clothes and weapons even? Because you gotta remember, Nami has a sword, Luffy has an axe, Sanji had a sword, and it's like, why would the Holy Knight dress them up in this way? I think that's my main hang up, because the Holy Knights, one, they should be focusing on getting food. They should not be after Straw Hat Luffy. I mean, Saturn even told the Vice Admirals to stand down. The VAs wanted to go to Elbaf and chase down Luffy. Saturn said, no, don't do that. You know, how about we just go home, right? And then the guy ended up dying. So because of that, I don't think this is the Holy Night. I truly don't. They're on their own mission. They should be getting food back up to Marie Joie. They should be dealing with the Revolutionary Army, fixing the Bondolas, dealing with Blackbeard. Like, Luffy shouldn't be on their radar right now. And if he is on their radar, why not just kill him? Right? Luffy and the gang were hallucinating. Why put them in a Lego cage? If you have them, you know, boom, boom, boom. That's all they had to do. So I don't think that's the case at all. But I do like your idea of them being shrunk. I think that's pretty solid. As far as like what that would explain, that would really just explain the Holy Night portion. As far as everything else, this could just be a giant or like an ancient giant, because we do know they're taller. It could even be like the Yeti Cool Brothers, who are taller than regular giants as well. But I do like the latter half, but I think that's my main reason why I don't fully agree with the Holy Night option yet. This person seems way too passive. And even when they entered the room, they kind of just focused on the shrine. You know, they didn't say, oh, you know, they escaped. Oh no, Luffy's leaving. No, they were just focused on the fact that their playset was destroyed. And even then, if this is a Holy Night, then why do they have such an obsession with Legos and with Elbaf, right? Why are their creatures named after Norse mythology, right? So it does make me wonder, and that's kind of why I do think that this person is an actual giant more so than anything else. All right, so with that being said, thank you guys so much for being here and joining me on this video. I really freaking appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching the last video and commenting, right? It really means a lot to me, and I love hearing all of your guys' different thoughts and opinions, and you know, kind of like what I was talking about with the Holy Night thing and the Man Marked by Flames idea, you know, hearing you guys voice your opinion and explain more things about it and why you think that way, it leads me to believe it as well. And I think that's what's so great about having this type of community. And again, it wouldn't be possible without everyone here right now. So yeah, with that being said though, I'll catch you guys later. I think I'm releasing this on Monday. I'm recording this Monday night, so yeah, this will be out today. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day. Sleep well. Spoilers should be out tomorrow. And then of course, in a couple of days, we should have the chapter 1129, which I think is going to be pretty damn fun. So yeah, peace out, y'all.